what it does to our school system. In this article, this was on MLive yesterday, I really encourage you to look. I actually brought 10 of them. If anybody wants to take this article, it says how Snyder plans to sell his $715 million plan for Detroit schools to Michigan lawmakers. In this article, he mentions, or it's mentioned, that the cost to the rest of the schools in the state of Michigan, it mentions the rest of the schools is $50 per pupil. For us, that's $500,000 for our organization. Okay, so that's the cost per the governor. I was really blunt last night at the board meeting and said, no way is that enough money. Not close. There's no way that that's enough money. I have some information relative to what I understand they're going to be doing, but I said on its surface, their problem is so much more than $70 million a year, because that's what that $70 million translates into $50 per student. Their problem is so much bigger. I said this at the boards on TV. I was wondering, is that going to get to the governor? Today might be going to get to the governor. Today's article, one day after I said that, Detroit Public Schools debt increases by $1 million every school day. So 1 million times about 180 days, that sounds more like 180 million. And this is one day after, not even 12 hours after I made those statements at the board meeting. It's just that, you can't, I think he's trying to soft pedal that, okay, the state's going to fix it, soft pedal the number, and then, oh, it was more than what we thought. Because it's a big number, and if you follow Detroit Public Schools, it's a terrible. And then we don't know, what happens at Pontiac, what happens at Benton Harbor, some of the other schools that are in the deficit situation. How is the state going to deal with them? They need to deal with them. Those children deserve an education and deserve a resolution to that matter. The roads I put up there because you hear about that. The state's talking about $400 million dedicated to road funding. Excuse me. $400 million coming out of the state's general fund. Oh, it's not coming from the school fund. I get it, but some funding for the school aid fund comes from the state general fund. Taking $400 million out of the general fund is not going to add, you understand, that doesn't create a situation in which the state can help the school aid fund through the general fund. They're dictating their value, and I'm saying it's a bad value, but the state has value. You demonstrate your values with your money and your time, right? The state has determined that those two values are going to take high priority, and they've been relatively transparent about it. So I think this is the last slide, and this is what definitely causes agitation within the discussion. When I talk about the GFOA and the Strategic Financial Plan, it gives us some screening tools about looking at our budgets. Then these are screening tools developed by experts in financial management, business minds. It's actually funded by the Gates Foundation. Our whole work is being funded by the Gates Foundation. So if you ever hear that we travel to Chicago to learn about this, that's all on grant funding. We don't spend a dime on it. The screening tools are used instead of an idea. Let's all sit around and think of ideas, okay? You know how long we've been doing that for 15 years? We've got all the ideas listed. I mean, we're exhausting the ideas. People talk, it's like, oh, well, reduce the copy costs. Like, well, reduce the copy. I don't have books. I can't make copies. And that doesn't save you the dollar amounts over the course of time. What the GFOA has developed is a screening tool that just points you to there's a spot. Look there. Look there. Nah, there's nothing there. Yeah, nothing there. Look there. What sticks out like a sore thumb is this. And I mean, you don't need to really even use a screening tool. But when they're saying for places that you need to look, if you are needing to direct resources to the best use relative to the educational priorities of the school system, that's what it points to. Now, we mentioned, I think, in a board meeting that what their screening tool points to is a number really a lot higher. For our community, we see the natural break right here. That 400 is actually the number they use, and if it's less than 400, you have opportunities for savings there. But 200 is the adjustment we've made, and so here we are. This is what brings us to this point. So I don't know if anybody wants me to leave that up there for a second or two. That's the last slide. I want to close with this, and then turn it over to Vicki Shirley, who will speak on behalf of the community library. We are at the very beginning stages of talking about this problem. Now, I don't want to spend 2 years talking about it. I don't think that's a good use of time, and I think the data shows you don't get to a better solution after 2 years. I want us to look at this smartly over the course of the next 5 or 6 months and develop a recommendation for the board to implement. There's some unique things that run through this dialogue. Okay, it's not just what you see there. We also have, as I've said, aging facilities, right? It's indisputable that what happens here, right, impacts what happens at Eastern, right? So that's indisputable that's part of it. So we have to conceptualize a few things. Worst case scenario, and I don't even like to put out there, but I just want to do it relative to the fears that are in the room and that have been expressed. Worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, we come up with a solution that the elementary isn't located here anymore, okay? What would that mean timing-wise? Well, Eastern Elementary needs to be reconstructed. That facility is old and outdated and can't fit the students. We will need to go through 1 year of planning for Eastern Elementary School through architectural, okay? The next year, Eastern Elementary would be constructed. Those students would need to go somewhere. Where would they go? Probably right here. And then, if the decision was that Eastern was the one to house the students, they go back to Eastern. Okay? That means that 3 years from now is what we're talking about. Okay? If that's the end. I go back to the letter that was sent to me and the idea of working together to see what are our opportunities within. I think there's a ton of opportunities, and I think there's a dialogue that can be had to preserve the values that we have in this room, the values for the school system that we're in this environment. None of this stuff is easy, for sure. And I would just want to just note that when we're talking about 300 square miles, 10,000 students, 1,500 employees, 17,000 parents, 80,000 taxpayers, there's complexities all the way through that. And I will tell you this, I live this every single day. There's no simple answer. There's no simple answer. If, let's just say we don't solve those school problems. Let's say we don't solve that. We have to go to a drawing board and say, how are we going to solve our problems? How are we going to solve our financial challenges? Are we going to eliminate copy cut? It gives us a few $10,000 or something. Are we going to, you name it, I don't even like saying it. Music programs, sports programs, the performing arts, increased class size. We've done that to its maximum. I never say never about anything, but I will tell you what, no increasing class sizes anymore. I don't see that as, that's the last chance, desperate. That's when we're marching on Lansing, I think. I know people might suggest we need to do that, but don't suggest that somehow it won't be an accurate thought process to suggest that there's some easy solution that you snap your finger. Because I know there's 200 people here or so. That solution that might be suggested, there's 400. There might be 1,000. There might be more. And then there's this, and this is what I'll end with, and I'll turn it over to Vicki. Then there's the solution that impacts the students that have nobody to stand up for them. And that's a really difficult thing, and that's something that challenges our board and it challenges me. Well, they won't really care. We can just do that. No one will care about that. I care about that, and I'm going to care about that, and I'm going to represent that voice. I'm just saying there's no easy solution. Your voices are represented here, and I appreciate the heck out of that. And so that's really how I want to kind of wrap this up. And before I turn it over to Vicki, and really, it's great that you're all here, and we'll continue this discussion. Vicki, do you want to stand up and give the Old Mission perspective?
You'll forgive me for reading this this evening, but I'm very much a person of the written word. Please know that I speak from the heart. I'm Vicki Shirley, as Paul said. I'm the director of our township library. I am not employed by Traverse City Area Public Schools, but rather by the citizens of Peninsula Township. My husband and I live and I work on Old Mission. All three of our children attended school here. Our son graduating from Old Mission's 6th grade class in 1995, and our twin daughters from the 5th grade class of 2005. I would like to share a little bit of township history with you. Peninsula Township was organized in 1853. The library actually owns the original road record, handwritten, that established the township. And our community is special in so many ways. Most Michigan townships are 6 miles by 6 miles. Peninsula Township, on the other hand, is 18 miles long by anywhere from 1 to 3 miles wide. One of the very first acts at that very first meeting of the newly formed township in 1853 was the establishment of a school district. By the end of the 19th century, 7 one- or 2-room schoolhouses provided education on Old Mission, each serving different isolated communities on Old Mission, but not serving as a whole. The sense of community back then was not derived from Old Mission as a whole, but rather within each of the smaller communities. Each area had its own school. Maple Grove, Bowers Harbor, Mapleton, Old Mission, Ogdensburg, Stony Beach, and McKinley, as well as their own women's groups. In 1956, the building that we are in now opened as a consolidation of the 7 smaller schools. Peninsula Community Library opened the following year in 1957 on the stage that used to stand right here in front. And for the very first time in its history, Old Mission as a whole grew into a community thanks to the school and the library. In 1959, by the vote of the people of Peninsula Township, Peninsula Community Library became a certified township under the laws of the state of Michigan, as we are to this day. In 1967, Old Mission Peninsula School became a part of Traverse City Area Public School District in order to fulfill the state requirement that all school districts provide 1st through 12th grade education. Since it's a community school, Old Mission only went through the 8th grade. Prior to annexation, Old Mission paid tuition to TCAPS for those students who wished to go on to high school. Over the years, Peninsula Community Library and Traverse City Area Public Schools have had a mutually supportive and respectful relationship. Paul Soma and I go way back. Paul has always been honest, encouraging, and helpful. I have the highest regard for him, and I do believe it is mutual. Because the library is a separate government entity from the school, there will always be a library here on Old Mission. However, our first choice is to continue the great relationship that we have here in the school. Why? Because the most important thing that came from the consolidation of those 7 one-room schoolhouses and a public library is the sense of community and collaboration that today are the heart and soul of our rural township. The school and the library together provide a center of life for our community. This is the gathering place for young, old, and everyone in between. This is the place where we come to know each other as the community of Old Mission Peninsula, and this is the place where we became a community. We are the people who need to find the resolution. Thanks for being here, Paul, and I'd like to thank the community for turning out in mass as well. Johnson-Reamer. She is representing the farming community. She is also a member of the Peninsula Community Library Board and parent of former students here.
Yeah, totally fine.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening. As Vicki said, I'm Kevin with Johnson-Reamer. I am a 6th-generation cherry and apple farmer here on the Old Mission Peninsula. Both my parents, myself, and 2 children attended Old Mission Peninsula School. That is 3 generations of our family. My father and mom
and my aunt, all sitting over here, all attended classes here through 8th grade in this great school. My grandfather, Walter Johnson, upon recommendation by a neighbor, sat on the school board for Old Mission as it was forming. My grandmother, Mary Johnson, was a board member for Peninsula Community Library for 20 years. Both she and my mom spent hours volunteering in the school and the library. Without this school and its founding fathers, the agriculture farm children would not have had a place to receive a quality education. The times of the one-room schoolhouse were not adequate, and the community rose up and filled the need for education in a farming community. A community like ours cannot be without a school. From orchards to vineyards, children still need a local education. We as farmers, we count on migratory families to assist in harvesting our crops. Without Old Mission Peninsula School, I believe it would hinder these families from coming to this peninsula to work. If you look around this school, what do we see? We're surrounded by some of the most beautiful, viable agricultural land in the state. We are the cherry capital, growing sweet and tart cherries. We grow numerous varieties of apples that are sold throughout Michigan as fresh fruit. Our viticulture family is growing fast and successfully. The wines grown and produced here are award-winning. We farmers cannot be successful stewards of the land without many hands. Without this school, we will experience a labor shortage. The families won't come, and the quality education that has so long been taught will be gone. Simply, in farmer speak, this school is the binder twine that holds our community together. Legacy, community, and family. Please remember the educational value of our community. Representative from the Old Mission Women's Club and Friends of the Peninsula Community Library. Nancy?
If you're a member of the Women's Club or the Friends, would you raise your hand just so people get an idea of the kind of support that the school has? Thank you. Yes, my name is Nancy Davey, and I am the current president of the Old Mission Women's Club and the Friends of Peninsula Community Library. I've been asked to talk to you a bit about the shared values of these two groups. Both are small, all-volunteer, 501c3 nonprofit organizations that meet on the Old Mission Peninsula. We are not the Rotary or Father Fred's. We do not have treasuries of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Our fundraisers are modest. In the case of the Friends, we sell outdated books from the library and those donated by folks from the community. For the Women's Club, our major fundraisers are holding a garage sale every other year, and we bake cookies. The activities of these groups help to enhance our sense of community. Of course, there is an important social component here, meeting new people and sharing refreshments, but the most valuable outcome of these groups is the way we feel when we come together to work for a common cause. Obviously, for the Friends, the common cause is totally focused on enhancing the already remarkable library, the very hub of the peninsula. It is unique in that it serves both as a community and school library. Here, there is the opportunity for a merging and crossing of the generations, which serves to strengthen the valuable sense of community. On any given day, you can catch a glimpse of our older residents smiling with pleasure at the opportunity of seeing eager young minds at work in the library or in their classrooms or at play on the playground. For the Women's Club, which has been in existence since 1931, our philanthropic projects both directly and indirectly affect the library and the school. Both the library and the school function as our liaisons to the young